Growing up, I loved Disney movies. They were magical. I was 6 when the movie Tinkerbell came out, and I was so fascinated by her perfectly cut blonde bangs that I went and snipped off my own hair and ended up getting bullied for months for looking like this. 2010, Tangled hit the theaters. Does anyone remember that one scene when Rapunzel catches her first glimpse of the floating lanterns? I could practically feel her emotions, her heart racing and wonder swelling inside her chest. And just a few days back, I was rewatching Finding Nemo. There I was, an 18-year-old sobbing as a clownfish loses his wife and children. But that's the thing about movies, right? They make you see, feel, realize, and understand emotions from the perspective of the most bizarre characters. Now imagine growing up in a world where none of these characters look like you, where none of them feel the same way you do, and you can't connect to any of them. Movies at the end of the day are nothing but a reflection of society. Imagine wondering, do I belong? And that's the fault in our childhood classics, the lack of representation. Representation is basically how popular media, such as films, shows, and books, portray different kind of people and communities. But right now, the representation of minority groups is hanging by threads and is riddled with stereotypes. In recent years, we've had a lot of discussion on 21st century learning. Emphasis was placed on innovation, leadership, collaboration, and communication. But let me add a term here: inclusion, inclusive innovation, inclusive collaboration. One that takes into consideration the problems of diverse people and aims to benefit them all. And how do we achieve this? Through acceptance. Acceptance of self identity and acceptance of diversity. Representation in media plays a vital role in achieving both. So right now, my friends and I are in the process for applying for colleges. And almost all colleges have these three questions which ask for your gender, sexuality, and personal pronouns. One of my transgender friends wasn't out to their family and had to answer these questions dishonestly because their parents were reading the application. This is what millions of LGBTQ youth go through on a daily basis. The fear that their identity would not be validated by the people around them. A lack of representation in media simply exacerbates the issue. Since the 1900s, Disney has had 12 official princesses and all of them straight. But in 2017, Disney merely proposes a homosexual princess and there is an uproar that homosexuality is being shoved down children's throats. I find it funny how children are too young to know about LGBTQ existence, but old enough to know about poison, child abuse, war, hell, murder, and so much more portrayed in Disney films. What is rather appalling is the misconception that watching a homosexual princess would magically turn a child gay. Being queer is not a choice, it's something you are born with. And this is where children get confused when their identity is bludgeoned to death even before they hit puberty. In most in most TV shows and movies that I've watched, homosexuals are either shown as child molesters or victims of violence. A lot of them are tragedies involving self-hate or suicide. With transgender representation, there is a very disturbing polarity. Either the transgender person is a horrifying villain or just the worst kind of comic stereotype. And the surprising part is that these are not historical representations, but representations that are very prevalent in media we all love and watch. How many of you have watched Friends, the TV show? It's one of my favorites. But I distinctly remember the character of Chandler's dad, who was a transgender woman. Her identity was never properly discussed, and her whole existence on the show is a joke. Some might call it bending the rules in favor of comedy. But in a world where transgender people are harassed and not taken seriously, it's wrong to distill their identity into a joke. What we need is positive representation that does not show LGBT characters outside the bounds of normal. One of the best representation I have come across was in the Magnus Chase series by Rick Riordan. I was 13 when I read Magnus Chase, And that's the first time I met Alex Fierro. Alex Fierro is gender fluid, basically, someone who does not identify themselves with fixed binary genders, an identity which is rarely represented in children's fiction. I remember this one scene where Magnus is utterly confused by Alex's clothing because it does not conform to a specific gender expectation. Alex tells him that they are gender neutral and prefer neutral pronouns such as they and them. Alex's character provided me with the clarity of non binary genders like never before. This series exists as proud proof that there is no excuse for not providing accessible and well researched LGBTQ representation in children's books. A positive representation of LGBT characters is essential for the physical and mental well being of the LGBTQ youth. We talk about 21st century learning, progress, and innovation. But none of that would be possible if the youth cannot count on their own identity and if they don't feel accepted as a part of the society whose progress they have to work towards. Another major issue hindering societal progress today is racial discrimination and stereotypes. Whenever I talk about representation, I get a very common argument that children just watch TV for fun. They don't derive much from it. But that is far from true. There is a very famous experiment called the Black Doll experiment, in which white children were asked to select either a white doll or black doll in response to a few questions. The questions were, which doll do you want to play with? Which doll is pretty? Which doll is ugly? Almost unanimously, all children chose the white-skinned dolls as a positive response and the black-skinned doll as a negative response. But here comes the twist. The same experiment was repeated with black children, and shockingly, even they preferred the white-skinned doll. So do you see what racist representation does to children? It not only changes their perception of other people and other communities, it changes their perception of themselves, a racial identity they were born with. What I've seen is that in movies and shows, black women are typically opinionated and sassy. Their characters are either hypersexualized or overweight and meant to be unattractive. Black men are shown as loud, aggressive, and in criminal characters. But Hollywood did see a major breakthrough when it released Black Panther by Marvel. What I love about this film is the authenticity behind it. A black director, black costume artist, makeup artist, and a predominantly black cast. Audiences who crave to see themselves on screen and who did not even think this would be possible slowly grew stronger and louder with this movie. And that's the kind of representation we must aim to achieve, one free from stereotypes. When we talk about representing culture, it is important to understand that not all representation appreciates culture. Sometimes elements of a culture are inappropriately adopted and their original meaning is distorted. I have personally seen the appropriation of Indian culture in many places. I have grown up in a household where my grandmother has taught me the historical, religious, and cultural significance of things like bindis and mehendi. So I get distressed every year when I see social media flooded with celebrity pictures during the music festival of Coachella in decorative bindis, headdresses, henna, and other accessories just because they're deemed exotic or trendy. Appropriation becomes worse when there is oppressive history behind it. Black culture, especially hairstyles, are often appropriated in the name of fashion. Historically, different kind of black hairstyles signified the different social status of women. Even today, black women face repercussions like being fired from their jobs for wearing braids or dreadlocks. Other women can wear the same hairstyles and be praised for it. Other women are able to wear black hairstyles without the stigma of actually being black. Black racial stereotypes aren't the only ones to exist in the film industry today. Right now, the stereotypes of Asian, Hispanic, and Arab characters is so prominent that I can predict the entire arc of a character moments after the opening scene. Asians, model minority, tech geeks, math nerds. Asian moms, very controlling of every aspect of their child's lives. Latinos, drug dealers, house help, and just can't speak English. Arabs, rich, males are misogynistic, females are oppressed, and obviously secretly they're all terrorists. What I hate about these stereotypes is that they don't present themselves in big life changing ways, but in the form of real life microaggressions. Microaggressions are basically verbal or behavioral responses, very unintentional, but they somehow communicate a negative attitude towards different communities and people. I have an anecdote to share here. In 2019, I visited the United States with my family for a vacation. And we were on this boat trip where we were talking to a lot of tourists. One of the ladies there came up to me and asked me, "Oh, where are you from?" I promptly replied, "India." Her expression to my answer amuses me till date. She looks at me in utter confusion and asks me, "Oh, but you speak such great English." Now, the thing is, her response did not physically or emotionally, for that matter, harm me in any way. It was completely unintentional. But I could not help but feel offended. India, one of the fastest developing nations in the world, and yet a population of 1.3 billion people, is generalized because more often than not, American media portrays India as poor, illiterate, and uncultured. I was 10 when the movie Avengers came out, and they had two scenes of India, both of which just showed slums. Yes, India has one of Asia's largest slums, but that does not mean all of us live in them. Most Asian countries have also undergone this yellow filter effect, which is meant to show an impoverished and polluted environment. And then there are the worst Indian accents. A French accent is considered alluring, a Russian rude, Africans powerful. But the moment an Indian guy says hello, people are on the floor laughing. When something as basic as the way people speak is stigmatized, how do we expect the youth to be accepting of other parts of people's personalities? Another major depiction that disturbs me is that of masculine and feminine traits. Females shown as overly emotional and concerned with their appearance. Showing emotions and caring about the way you present yourself is not a feminine trait. It's part of being human. And then there is the worst kind of narrative, the Cinderella complex, which assumes that women need men in pursuit of a happy, fulfilling life. But I must say, I have seen breakthroughs in this case. Recent children's films like Brave and Moana show empowered and independent women. I remember watching Gravity, Sandra Bullock as the lead protagonist. It was a movie about science and resilience. But more importantly, it was a movie about an incredibly smart woman because she actually flies into space. What is so extraordinary is that Sandra Bullock spends three-quarters of the movie on screen by herself in close up shots with very little makeup. This does not happen regularly in the film industry. When kids see outdated gender stereotypes portrayed over and over again in the film industry, it can change their perception of what they can grow up to be. As 21st century progresses towards equal opportunities for all, it is vital that the youth feel capable of fitting into any career field they wish to be a part of. Gender stereotypes inevitably also promote body stereotypes. How many of you have watched a movie and then gone back to Google the training and diet routine of an actor? I have done that. And but studies show that whether it is Natalie Portman in Black Swan or Hugh Jackman in Les Miserables, teenagers try to replicate these bodies and often end up with eating disorders. Body stereotypes are also very prominent in casting characters. Spider-Man is fit and handsome while his best friend is an obese nerd. When overweight people are shown at all, they're shown as comic stereotypes and are often ridiculed. And popular TV shows such as Gossip Girl and Riverdale have very old actors playing mere high school students. A growing teenager with experiencing body changes would often look up to these characters and wonder, do I fit the beauty standard? Media is indirectly inculcating insecurities and a lack of confidence in growing teenagers. Our bodies come in all shapes and sizes, and media should be about celebrating their uniqueness. While we talk about being comfortable in your old body and abilities, a very disturbing depiction for me is that of learning disabilities. Then last year, I used to volunteer at a place called the We Can Resource Institute, which caters to underprivileged students with learning disabilities.
Working with them for so long, what I have realized is that there isn't necessarily a lack of representation, but a lack of accuracy. If any of you have watched the two shows, Atypical or The Good Doctor, both of them have lead protagonists who are autistic. In Atypical, Sam is an autistic student who struggles with daily things like fitting in with the popular teens. But he doesn't seem to spend any time in a special classroom or a special school. In The Good Doctor, Dr. Sean Murphy is autistic but a brilliant surgeon. He's a very compelling character, but a very, very far cry from the most non-verbal, intellectually backward adults with autism who struggle to find a job at all. I feel like we need to start seeing the breadth of experiences of autistic people. Not just the high school student or the brilliant surgeon, but also the undiagnosed child who is struggling to be understood and the adult who can barely handle a TV remote. People who are highly challenged and struggle every day are at the risk of becoming invisible. And representation in media would help build patience and understanding within society. Today, our education curriculum very succinctly leaves out representation. Indian history and mythology is laced with beautiful depictions of the LGBTQ plus community. And yet, in the 10 years of history that I've studied, I have never once come across it in a single textbook. We can use all the technology we want in education, and it would still not be enough if the future generations lack respect for themselves and for others. It's time we tell our children stories with the creativity, dignity, depth, and humor that makes them see real people. Representation matters in small, nuanced ways as well as big, life saving ways. We would be making this world a little bit safer for an intentionally underrepresented and maligned population. It's time we ideate a 21st century where the youth feel comfortable in their own skin, where their identity is not overlooked or invalidated. 21st century learning will only be successful when we're able to build a society where no one has to wonder, do I belong? Thank you.